Triple E EDC back again with another knife video. This is the ZT-0850CF. Now this is a sprint run version of the ZT-0850 that had blue carbon fiber, satin, completely satin blade, satin thumb studs, satin pivot, satin hardware, satin backspacer, satin clip, and satin subframe. So it really had it was all satin with that blue carbon fiber, and it was also a 20 CV blade just like this one. This knife was loaned to the channel by the Knife Whisperer. He is a new channel on YouTube. He's got about 32 subscribers right now, really just a brand new channel. But at 100 subscribers, he's going to be giving away a brand new Kershaw Matrix XL in copper, the copper finish, which I think is the same knife that I gave away at 1,000 subscribers, or one of the knives I gave away at 1,000 subscribers. So if you missed out on my giveaway and you wanted to win that knife, go ahead and check out his channel, and check it out anyway, even if you didn't. It is the Knife Whisperer. Again, it's linked at the bottom in the description section of this video. All right, let's go ahead and talk about this knife. This knife is a collaboration design between Sienkiewicz and Rexford, both of which are two major players in the design game, and they teamed up with ZT. It was a huge deal at the time in 2017 when it was announced. This was a 2017 Blade Show flagship entry by ZT, and this was a big deal when it was coming out, released to a lot of fanfare. So definitely something to think about. So let's go ahead and talk about some size comparisons. So first of all, we've got the Paramilitary 2 and the Para 3. Now this is a big knife. It's bigger than both of those. It is bigger than the Shaman. It is bigger than the Griptilian. It's bigger than the Freak. It is bigger than the XM18 3.5, which is also the same size as the ZT-0562. It is smaller than the XM24. It is monstrously bigger than the Benchmade Bugout. Smaller than the ZT-0452. But interestingly sized compared to the 0308, which is a smaller blade but a larger handle. So that'll give you an idea of the size of this thing. Definitely, if you're into larger knives, something to consider, because this is something that's going to be right up your alley if you're into larger knives. So let's go ahead and talk about the good and the bad here. So the good on this knife. First of all, the good on this knife is the just general aesthetics. There are some portions of the aesthetics that I don't like. You probably guess what those are. But overall, I think the knife looks pretty great, this version of it. Yeah, there is another version of it, which I'll discuss later, but this is the sprint run version. This is excellent. So I just wanted to go ahead and mention the aesthetics for a second. I think they actually do look pretty good. As you can see, this knife has black carbon fiber, very, very nice carbon fiber, kind of a matte, matte feel with some texturing, some very micro texturing, and it's on both sides, which is excellent. You don't usually see carbon fiber on both sides of the knife, especially from ZT. You can see here, this is carbon fiber, and you get titanium on the other side. Now, I like all titanium knives, as you can see. You know, I go ahead and get a titanium scale for this, and, you know, titanium scale for this. These things aren't cheap when you're buying from Endura. So you can tell I definitely like my titanium on both sides of the knife. But here, carbon fiber on both sides of the knife is actually quite nice and makes the knife really, really light for the size. I mean, this thing it pretty much keeps with the ounce and inch, with the ounce and inch. I think it's a little bit heavier because of the backspacer, which we'll get to, but that's sort of needed to balance it out. Speaking of the balance on this thing, the balance on this thing is pretty good. And it's right behind the pivot, which is exactly where you're going to want it to be. And that's because the heavier side of this is balanced out by the backspacer here and the pocket clip, as well as the subframe. Anyway, let's go ahead and talk more about the overall design of the knife. As you can see, you have a swedge up here. You have a really nice blade right here, blade grind, where it's a sort of a high flat grind, and you have some flat up here, which they've DLC coated. And so I think that looks really nice on this sprint run version, this DLC coating. It's not there on the original version. You can see the grind lines on here are vertical grind lines. I don't know if it's showing up on the camera, but they definitely are vertical grind lines. There you go. I think you might be able to see them. And those look very nice on the knife as well. So, you know, overall, I think the choice here to use the subframe lock is a good one here because, again, you get the carbon fiber on both sides, and the overall design of the knife is pretty nice. The blade on the knife is an excellent cutting shape. It doesn't have enough belly to be like a Skinner type blade, but it definitely has a little bit of flat over here and a soft belly going up the side here, which really makes for a very slicey, good blade, good utilitarian blade shape. It's like a sheep's foot type blade. The grind on here is actually really good. This thing cuts. It really, really cuts, which, you know, some knives from ZT are a little thick behind the edge. Whoop, just hit the camera there. Some knives from ZT are a little bit thick behind the edge. This thing is beautiful behind the edge and is really thin and slicey. So definitely love to see that from ZT. Definitely a big fan of that. So overall, you know, the ergonomics on this thing are definitely a plus. I'd say maybe an 8 out of 10 on ergonomics. The biggest two factors in the ergonomics you're going to want to know are that this dimension, this height dimension, could be a little bit wider. I'd like that. Obviously, at this price point, I'd like to see a little bit more contouring. We'll get to the price point later. But you know, because these are flat, these are not contoured. But otherwise, your thumb locks in really well on this ramp right here. And it's like at the perfect spot for this ramp. And then, you know, with the pointer in this choil here, or the finger groove, it really locks in. You feel great. Like I said, it could be a little wider here, but other than that, I'd say about an 8 out of 10 in ergonomics. Very, very, very nice in the hand. You know, combined with the blade shape and the fact that your blade is not too far from the finger, is definitely a huge plus on this. So definitely like that as well. The action on this is excellent. I mean, all right, go ahead and take a look at this. See how fast that came down? Now, I'm used to doing this. Don't try this at home, kids. You'll cut yourself. But you know, the action on that is pretty much drop shut, you know, up until you get to the point where I have to take my finger off of the lock bar here, but then it's really smooth going in. And so this is really, really smooth action. You'd expect it to almost be on bearings, but actually, despite this being a ZT, this is on phosphor bronze washers. And this is one of the best phosphor bronze washers on a newer knife that I've ever seen. Because this thing is pretty much, you know, like new out of the box. I mean, obviously it's been previously reviewed by the Knife Whisperer. Go check his channel out. But it definitely is still, I mean, this is a knife that feels like it's been broken in for years, and it is pretty much right out of the box. I mean, I gotta definitely give ZT their kudos on that. Thumb stud placement on this is pretty good for flicking it out. We'll definitely get to the cutting path later, but for flicking it out, this thing is excellent. I love to see that ZT moved into doing a thumb stud knife. They do, you know, they do plenty of flippers. Flipper, you know, the 0562, another flipper, you know, you saw the XM18 here. The 0562 is another flipper just like that. They just do a lot of flippers, but seeing a thumb stud knife from them, especially one as, you know, nice and smooth as this, was definitely excellent. The use of the milled titanium clip, definitely nice here. I think I've said definitely a lot. I sound like the cartoon character. Definitely. Anyway, sorry, I think my AI was chirping at me for a minute. In any event, the milled clip on here is very, very nice, and it goes in and out of the pocket very, very nicely. This is another milled pocket clip. You can see that there's some non-flushness, is not flush with the side. This is a Medford Slim Midi. By the way, I really love this Slim Midi, but I've been giving it a lot of crap lately. I guess that's because I hold it in high regard. It's really a great knife. Don't, try to remember that. But in any event, you can see here, this is flush, completely flush on the side. It's not too tight, it slides in and out of the pocket very easily. Definitely aided by the fact that there is not slick carbon fiber, but not something that's really, really too grippy either. So that's a plus. Yeah, I mean, the other thing I'll say is the fact that they were able to get carbon fiber on both sides of this knife really feels great. I think the addition of the subframe lock was a huge, huge benefit to that, because this is all one solid piece of carbon fiber, with the exception of the subframe lock, and there's no liners or anything inside of here. It's just carbon fiber. I don't know if you guys can see that. That's just great design. It's really great design to use a subframe lock in this way so that you can really have just carbon fiber scales. Love it. Let's go ahead and talk about some of the bad here. So some of the bad would have to do with the original version. So the original version of this was, it had blue carbon fiber and a full satin blade. And what really didn't work was the fact that the carbon fiber, I didn't love the blue on it. The shade of blue they used, honestly, was a bit of a problem for me. But other than that, like I said, there were satin everything, but the satin were different colors. So for instance, this lock bar is titanium. This is titanium. This is actually aluminum. I would have liked to see titanium in this price range, guys. But titanium, aluminum, steel, and then I'm not quite sure. I think this was also steel, but I'm not quite sure. That's just, it's okay, but then the way they did it was that it was all different colors. Because they were using different metals, they ended up being different colors when they were satin. And so you had one color here, which matched this, another color here, another color here, which matched this. It just didn't work, and didn't love that. Also, with that blue that wasn't really a good blue, kind of became a little bit of a problem for me. So I didn't love that. Also, the screw on the other one, on the thumb stud, really looked prominent. Here it's not as prominent, I guess, because it's blacked out, but that's something, that you would notice right away on the other one as well. And, also on the bad side, I'm going to say that the fact that they have steel screws directly into an aluminum backspacer is not such a good decision. Steel is harder than aluminum. You can strip out the aluminum, screws won't hold anymore, and you've got a problem. So what they should have done was had some sort of system that interlocked the screws, like Chicago screws or something, that went all the way through, just drilled out the aluminum and gone about it that way. I don't really know why they didn't do that. It would have been a much better way to do it. Not to say that this doesn't hold, it holds, but I'm worried that if I take it apart and put it together several times, I may have some problems. So that's not a good thing. Also, all the billboarding on this, really unnecessary. I mean, you have two designers on here. You have the serial number, you have the steel, you have the model number, you have Kai USA, and then you have the patent number. Okay. I know why you're doing this, ZT and Kershaw. You're doing this because of everything that happened with Microtech, with the subframe lock. I get it. But you're really just doing this for yourself to rub it in Microtech's face. So, come on, I don't need to see patent number on my knife here. Could just be all blacked out. I bought an all blacked out knife. I didn't buy this. This is provided by the Knife Whisperer. Check him out. But if you get an all blacked out knife, you want this to be blacked out. You don't want that writing there. And here, when you've got, the contrast of the black DLC here and the satin on the blade, you don't want a bunch of writing here messing that up. So, yeah, not a great look on that, but it is what it is. My biggest pet peeve on this knife is probably yeah, you guessed it, the 6 shooters. All right. Apostle P called this, a gas station knife because it had the 6 shooters. Honestly, this is a premium knife. I don't think of it as a gas station knife. I don't think it devalues it to that point. But And honestly, I don't mind a gun theme on the knife either. I really don't mind a gun theme on the knife. I'm pro 2A, just, you know, I don't usually get into politics, but that's my politics on that. But, guys, you got a 6-shooter here, a 6-shooter here, a 6-shooter here, bullets here. I mean, it's like you're trying too hard. I just don't get it. I mean, especially with the thumb stud, because the thumb stud and the pivot are so near each other. First of all, they're two slightly different colors of black, which isn't as big of a deal on this knife as it is on the other knife, where they're two different colors of silver, and it shows a lot more. But you're getting the point across here. Why do you need it here too? It just doesn't make sense. So it's like overkill. I don't know. That's my little rant on that. It feels like the 6-shooters on this knife are a little bit like a guy who goes and he has a chest rig on his left side, a chest rig on his right side, chest holster, I should say, shoulder holster on each side, a shoulder holster, a hip holster on his right side, hip holster on his left side, and he's got, you know, even one in his boot, right? So he's got one there, one there, one there, one there, and even one in the boot. It's just, and then, you know, a couple mags for posterity. That's what this knife looks like on a person with that type of thing. I don't know if you guys get what I'm saying, but it just doesn't do it for me. I think it's overkill. But that being said, does it, you know, ruin the knife for me? No, it doesn't. I don't think it ruins the knife for me. And it's not really, you know, a functional problem or anything like that. I'm more of a function over form anyway. So I can definitely appreciate good form on a knife, but I wouldn't carry so many Spydercos if I was all about form over function. But let's talk about something functional. That thumb stud is definitely right in the cutting path. I mean, it's significantly in the cutting path. If you go straight down, you're losing that much of an edge with that thumb stud. It's definitely a problem, definitely something to think about, but the thumb stud is removable. So when you go to sharpen it, you can remove the thumb stud and you can still reach the blade. So at least they thought about that ahead of time. One other thing to note is this little divot right here. It's not just for aesthetics. They were testing out this, this is what my understanding of this is. They were testing out the idea that they didn't want people to rest their fingers on the frame lock, or in this case, the subframe lock. They were testing out this idea that they would encourage people not to have their fingers there if they had a notch here that felt natural for people to put their fingers into. The problem on this knife is that that notch doesn't really fall in a natural position, because the natural position my hand wants to be on this knife is over here by the pocket clip, and then over here above that notch. So does it work? In theory, yes, but in practice, no. Other than that, the overall conclusion here is that, well, actually, I'll talk about one more thing. One more thing is the price. So the price on this is kind of all over the place, because the original one came out, it was like 325 bucks, the original ZT-0850. It wasn't as big of a hit as everyone thought it would be. And so they eventually became discontinued, and they're available now about $225 from several knife retailers that still have them in stock. Because they're discontinued, they're about $225. So they're obviously haven't sold out at that price. So I will say, even if this was the other version at that price, I'm probably a buyer. Like to see it a little lower, but probably a buyer. Okay. This version, the Sprint CF version, so it's available at least one place I know of at $325, and it is available or it was sold originally, I think around $285 is what the price was. So if you can find one, you know, around the original price, I do think this is, you know, worth around $250-ish as far as this version. The other version, I'd probably say, because the aesthetics a little bit kill it for me, I'd probably be more of a buyer around $200 or the $225 where it sits currently. So that's my valuation of it. Still, I think this is an excellent knife overall. Definitely one I'd love to have in my collection. Definitely. Sorry guys, I keep saying that. This is one I'd like to have in my collection. The Knife Whisperer has offered it to me at a price. I am thinking of buying it at that price, And honestly, if it was not for the fact that I have so many knives I need to buy for this channel, I would have already taken him up on it, but I do need to think about it because of the fact that I have so many knives I need to buy. Still that being said, this is a great knife overall. I wish the price was a little bit lower. It does have its drawbacks. It's not a strong recommend, but I think I would say it is definitely a knife worth owning, or at least handling at some point if you get the opportunity, so that you can feel this amazing phosphor bronze washer action and get some appreciation for how good phosphor bronze washer knives can be, and that bearing knives are not the end-all, be-all. Thanks for watching, guys. Go ahead and hit the subscribe button if you thought that this was useful. Hit the notification bell so you get all my content. I do a lot of giveaways, so definitely stay tuned. Definitely. And also go ahead and leave a comment below. Let me know if you have this knife or the original, what you think of it, and how it compares to some other phosphor bronze washer knives that you have in your collection. Thank you so much for watching.